Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. With the voice, Milt Thompson. Delivering the best of sports programming. Interviews with top celebrities. And the answer to the question, where are they now? And now, Milt Thompson, Playing for Keeps.
Good evening and welcome to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson. We're back here on Friday night again. After the sectionals, they played them a little bit, and so now we're able to get us in a regular time slot. I know you appreciated that special Super Bowl version with Michael Irvin, as well as with Devon McDonald. Those were an excellent show, so it's worth doing it twice. We appreciate you watching, and unbelievable all the kind letters and responses that we've been getting to this really special kind of sports programming. Getting behind the action, not necessarily what's on the field and what's on between the lines, although we do some of that with some of our great Where Are They Now participants. We've had Dean Biasucci, Where Are They Now? We've had Gary Brackett, Where Are They Now? We've had wonderful folks like that. Sandy Knapp, oh my gosh, and when those are unbelievable two shows there, talking about building up to us having a fantastic not only Final Four, but an entire March Madness. Brilliant stuff. And again, someone just sent me a text message of my billboard out there. I said, you had to stop your car to watch that billboard so that you didn't run off the road either. So we've been teasing about that too a little bit, Mr. Lucky One. But we are so lucky today. We're going to have another special show. Someone who's had a varied career. You want to grow up to be like this guy, right? You hope that your luck brings that to you. Lawyer, still a lawyer, sometimes you do that. Then turned athletic director of the great place of Indiana University. Then turned author, writing his own book. Making your own luck. We're making our own luck right here by having the author of that book right here. So we'll have a little chance to talk with him about that too. Playing for Keeps is the place to be for the best in sports programming around Central Indiana. And through our YouTube, it seems like everywhere. We're getting responses from every place. You continue to watch and you continue to let these folks here know that you appreciate this programming. We're going to come right back here after these short words, and we're going to talk with the lucky one, Fred Glass.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
And welcome back to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson. Every Friday night right here on WHMB Channel 40, we're going to bring you the best in sports programming, and keep writing in text, emails, letters, anything that you can to signal to the folks around here, this is the kind of programming we want. Go out and support Steve Sanner and Jiffy Lube, and go out and support Bleaky Dolan and Crandall, go out and support E-Spot Spas, go out and support Hope Training Academy, go out and support all of our sponsors. In fact, if we can get the lucky one, maybe he can find some money over there in that big fancy law firm he works with, then maybe they can have a couple of dollars to support behind us here Playing for Keeps. We have that, and we do have the lucky one, irrepressible Fred Glass. Fred, welcome to our show.
Milt, it's so cool to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm the lucky one here, and we'll talk about your book later in the next segment. But we're so fortunate to have you here, to have such a varied background that you've been able to make your own luck. You've been able to advance through different things. Tell us about your before law school days and what got you interested. And I know you're a big Hoosier guy, so we'll talk about that too. But what got you to even think about getting into the legal profession?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you describing my background as a varied career, because it's more like I can't hold a job, right? Because I've bounced all around. I'm an Indianapolis kid, man. I went to St. Thomas Aquinas, grade school, Brebeuf, prep school, sectional champs, and always wanted to be a lawyer. And I think it might have been my dad dropped out of law school and ended up being in the tavern business. And that's a whole different thing. But it's a big part of my development, man, to grow up in those bars and think that, I think you can make a difference with a law degree. And my dad always said, it's like being a plumber. It's a license nobody can take away from you. And that sounds real pedestrian, but that's been real powerful for me. It's like, hey, I'm gonna take risks, I'm gonna take chances, and I can always fall back on my license, And I think it's helped me lead to being willing to do different things.
Fortunately, that's been my mantra as well. I'm doing a lot of things. I've never had a job, so there's a difference between you and me, so that's a blessing. But pass that along to my daughter about that, and she's been able to make a wonderful career. She never took a bar exam, but never needed to take one. But
right.
Goes along with those other initials behind her name.
Absolutely.
So you've had that great deal. You wanted to go to law school. You matriculated, got a good degree, and then you began to interview and go off to the big firm.
Yeah, I had a job offer at Ice Miller, and one of the big time firms with a big time salary, and I'd been scrimping with my wife. We got married young, and we were all set to do that. And sort of the last minute, I saw a 3x5 card on the placement office outside the school. That's how they used to do it. Kids can't believe that these days, but it said, "Kindly old Judge Dillon, looking for a law clerk, top 10% of your class, law review, and a working knowledge of Indiana University basketball."
That's great.
And he was like an iconic
Judge
guy.
Dillon,
He was like
of
a
course.
hero of mine. And so I applied, and I didn't think I could get it because, clerkships went to like the
Sure,
Brainiac kids.
sure.
I wasn't one of the Brainiac kids.
Sure.
But for some reason, he offered me the job, and I was trying to decide whether to take it or not. And I went to see Jerry Bepko, my professor.
There you go.
And he said, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Look, when you're making a decision about what to do in your life, in your profession, always pick the option that creates more options
opportunities,
downstream,
exactly.
right?" And that sounds so basic, man, but I've applied that over and over again. So I took the clerkship, even though it paid less than half of what the Ice Miller gig did, and it was a great experience, and I was off and running. That's how it started.
That's Hugh Dillon. I mean, he
Yeah.
was part of the busing decision that
Yeah,
changed
absolutely.
how Indianapolis worked relative to that. And
Right.
I was a young prosecutor when he had that order down, and I was deployed down to Perry Meridian on the south side, and they weren't too fond of that. So,
Well, ironically, in the same era, my mother was a social worker in IPS for 35 years. And as such, she was the truant officer. And those were volatile times,
Volatile
and
times.
people were holding their kids at home and not sending them. And my mom used to go house to house to do home visits to encourage people to send their kids. And these were a lot of like white families that didn't like
Right.
sending their kids to racially integrated schools. And my dad would sit in the backseat of the car with a baseball bat in case something happened. I mean, that was
Right.
kind of how it was.
It was.
man.
It
Yeah.
was. I recall those days, and I didn't get big law firm offers like you for some of those same reasons, but that's another story.
You're big time, man.
Altogether.
If your nickname wasn't The Voice, it should be Big Time.
Big time.
Yeah.
Right. He's never held a job.
Hey, that's a good gig. That's a good deal right there.
That's a gig if you can keep it, right?
Exactly.
Well, fantastic. Well, so you get all this law background from you. You talked about a family that said, take opportunities. You run into a federal judge who says take opportunities. You do that clerking and all these things, broadening opportunity. And you do love Indiana basketball,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, that kind of carved its way a bit of your career too, did it not?
Yeah, it sure did. I mean, I kept kind of, again, not holding a job, worked for the judge, had another offer at Ice Miller, turned that down to work at a small firm because I thought it'd be a better chance for me. Got involved in government politics, went to work for Evan Bayh. I think that's about the time
Correct.
you and I got to
Right.
know each other.
Exactly.
Worked there, left, worked at Baker and Daniels, and lo and behold, my buddy Bart Peterson gets elected mayor.
Right.
And not because I'm the smartest guy in the world, but because I'm his buddy. He puts me the head of Capital Improvement Board, and I say that only so much with my tongue in cheek because I always knew I wasn't there because I was the most qualified guy, but I had the mayor's trust, and that's important.
It is important in
But
that
I
job.
stayed grounded, like, hey, I'm here because of him, not because I'm Mr. Smarty Pants. So together we worked on the Colts deal, the
Right.
Final Four, Lucas Oil Stadium, Convention Center, Super Bowl, and it was those experiences that gave me the ostensible credentials to then be considered to be IU athletic director. In reality, I'm not sure how much that really matched up, but it gave me some sports background that I think enabled President Grabe to choose me at a time when Indiana was down and needed an alum, I think, to come back and help build it back up.
Well, that's modest of you to suggest that, but I went through those documents. I served a couple terms on the Capital Improvement Board too, and it went through some rough times. And how it is you kind of figure out that stuff, and it's not necessarily your great intellect; it's how it is you put things together and solve problems.
Right.
So you're able to solve problems, and you got an opportunity down at your beloved IU to help solve some problems. And you spent more than a decade there, have you not? Didn't you?
I did, and Milt, talking about the problems, so I'm a candidate out of left field. I'm the unconventional candidate, which means they hired somebody that didn't know what they were doing, thank God. And I go down there and start talking to everybody I can talk to, including coaches. And multiple coaches said to me, why would somebody that looks like they could be doing something else want to come here and do this? Which didn't bum me out, but it was disappointing. I mean, to me, it's like the quintessential college town. I love IU, beautiful campus, college sports kids, what's not to like? But then I did some Ignatian reflection on that and thought that this group of employees, I was the 5th athletic director in 8 years. So how do you get any momentum with that? Coach Knight was still less than a decade away from being fired.
Right.
Coach Hepner, who we thought would lead us to the promised land in
Right.
football,
Gets
dies of a
ill.
horrible
Right.
glioblastoma. And then the reason I was there, Kelvin Sampson was a cheater, and he didn't care about school, at least not apparently cared much about school.
Right.
So that was their reality. So part of what I realized I needed to do was create a esprit de corps, really try to heal the department before I could lead it. And as challenging as that was, it was extremely rewarding to come in when my alma mater was a little down, and I think rebuild the foundation.
Well, cultural change is some of the most difficult thing to do, right? Once it's kind of set, and there's no doubt that Coach Knight had kind of set it in place. Even in my agency days, and I'd go to guys who were his players, and I said, well, why can't I do this? And no, Steve Ferguson already got him. Coach Knight's taking care of it. And Coach Knight started taking care of it until after he goes off his business, is where it is the 81 team, or where I was able to get those guys from Ray Tolbert and Jimmy Tom, those guys.
Those
like
are my
that.
guys.
Yeah,
Class
I
of
understand.
81.
I know the start of my agency, really, outside of a few baseball players. But the culture was difficult because it was driven by Coach Knight, even more so than the entire department, more so than the football program, more so than the athletic director, Clarence Doniger. Now we had talks about it, and you know, when you're kind of dangled around and you're supposed to be the boss, it's not really the easiest place to set new culture.
Right.
So you've got this opportunity to mold. Tell us what you did first.
Well, I'm a lawyer, so I look for a form, something to copy, you know, and I'm very impacted, Milt, by my Ignatian education, my Jesuit education, not from a religious proselytizing sense, but the way of proceeding and the leadership that they developed. And the Jesuits have this thing called the grad at grad, what they want the graduates of Brebeuf to look like when they graduate.
Right.
Intellectually competent, open to growth, loving, religious, and committed to social justice.
Right.
And it's everywhere, man. You can't get away from it, you know. And not that they all come out with that, because I didn't, not my kids all didn't, but it's aspirational. And so we created the 5 priorities. Play by the rules, be well in mind, body, and spirit, achieve academically, excel athletically, and be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And it was our rallying point, is what we were about. And that laid the foundation to healing.
Becomes part of the cultural pieces, so that we are building an opportunity for people to kind of change their ways, if you will, and sometimes look at yourself better. Very much like Indianapolis had to do through the sports movement.
Exactly.
Kind of an inferiority complex, and what can we do, kind of things that we can build upon so that we feel better about ourselves. And that whole spirit that you brought along, I was fortunate enough to follow you as a Whistler Award winner.
Yeah.
And folks talked about that here. So the kind of things that you do that you don't do because you are looking for an award, the kind of things you do because it's a part of who you are, it's part of your DNA to allow you to get that cultural. Well, as he was getting this culture built at IU, changed some things fiscally that allowed them to be able to move and thrive. And part of the reason why I suspect that he wrote his book, and we're going to get into that in the second segment when we come right back here on Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the Voice Milt Thompson. You come back right after these special words. We'll be right back with the lucky man, Fred Glass.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
And welcome back to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the Voice Milt Thompson. We're here with the lucky one, Fred Glass. Talked about his law career, talked about his family background, talked about his education that really helped him do some of the things that he has from a cultural point of view, and then sprung his good luck into being a athletic director at IU at a tough time, where he brought all those things, the confluence of all those skills and times and values and relationships together to say, wow, this is a challenge. What I'm going to do now is instill those values, but what am I going to do with this place that doesn't have the kind of money that we want, and we're sharing budgets and terrible football teams, and Bob Knight's gone, and through coaches. Wow, how did you fit all that together and change the fortunes of that department?
Well, one of the things we did, as we talked about in the first segment, was just try to develop ourselves as a value-based organization. I think the most important thing that any organization can do is to be value-based. So when the winds start blowing and the sandstorm's going and your GPS doesn't work, you've got a compass, and the compass is your values. That was really critical to inculcate those values. And then recognizing our challenges. I mean, you know this, Milt, but a lot of your viewers may not be particularly aware of what an economic disadvantage IU is compared to the other people we're expected to beat in the Big Ten, right?
Football versus basketball, right?
Right,
Money.
and just money. And our program is financially based primarily on basketball. Most of the other people in the Big Ten are football. And guess what? There's a lot more people in football stadiums and basketball arenas.
Absolutely.
So, for example, we're in the Big Ten East in football, and 3 of the teams we're supposed to beat, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, each one of those teams makes more money in one football game than we make in 7 home games, okay?
Right.
And that's a big difference. The last year that I was there, the biggest football moneymaker in the conference was Michigan. They made $62 million. We were the bottom team. We made $6 million. And that's not only tough on your football program, that's tough on everything, man, because money matters. Not because you stick it in a mattress, under your dorm bed, but because you need to hire strength and conditioning coaches, academic advisors, trainers, the people make the world go around in terms of being competitive. So we had to try to level the playing field, and one of the main ways we did that was philanthropy. A lot of people have been on your show. They see me coming. They probably turn around and go the other way because they think I'm going to ask them for money. Because we raised, $25 million in 45 days for the Super Bowl. I've raised my share of political money, and I'm just shameless about raising money. And so we set, record after record on fundraising, which really just helped level the playing field until we could get the butts in the seats that
But
help
you are
us.
but you are in a conference though, Fred. So the Big Ten Network was a changing game piece, right?
Yep.
As well as getting bowl money when your competitors make the bowl money.
Rooting for Ohio State, baby.
so there are other ways that you can fit that together along with philanthropy, because you're not going to just fundraise your way out of the budget issues, right?
Milt, 100% right. My view, and you know this, is that from Indiana's perspective, the Big Ten Network and the TV deal is the best thing since canned soup. Because like profit sharing with the NFL, it sort of levels the playing field so that the Iowas, Illinois, Purdue's, and Indianas of the world can be competitive. And what's the magic of the NFL? Any team can win any year.
Exactly right.
There's, baseball's different, basketball's kind of different, but football. And the Big Ten's a little bit of a hybrid. The Big Ten Network, the media deal, creates that semi-level playing field. It's a little askew because you don't share, football attendance and, sweet money and all that.
Right.
But still, we can be and have been competitive.
Well, there are all kinds of battles that I know that you faced as athletic director. One when Northwestern decides, because of being a private school, that maybe we want to unionize. Then, the Ed O'Bannon case with the NCAA here, that's all of a sudden changing the landscape again about how it is. Will that change the competitive balance between big schools with big boosters and folks who are able to pay athletes, if you will, through another avenue? What's your take on this, or did you retire just in time to take some of that off?
I did retire pre-transfer portal and pre-NIL and whatever comes next, and I'm not disappointed in that. But I will say that in terms of the name, image, and likeness piece, for students to be able to be compensated for the name, image, and likeness, I was for that forever. There's something un-American about telling kids they can't profit off their name, image, and likeness. So there's a lot of challenges with that. It's particularly for places like IU. They're in small communities and all that. But it's the right thing to do. And intercollegiate athletics has weathered a lot of storms, and I think they'll weather these as well.
It's going to weather those storms, and because people are making their own luck, lucky one, right?
Right.
So that sets you off on another venture, and that's to become an author. What led to that? And by the way, we'll put up on the screen here some images of that book, and I'm going to invite you all to go out and buy it. I know he's probably likely maybe give me one if he'd autograph it one of these days, but for more likely than not, he's going to want you to purchase it. But making your own luck. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so a couple years ago for Father's Day, my daughter, I have 4 kids, a girl and 3 boys, and my daughter gave me this gift that some of your viewers may be aware of. It's called Storyworth, and it's a subscription service where every week for a year, this service would ask me a question, and I'd answer it, and it'd go back to my daughter, and she might say something back, and I'd say something back. And then at the end of the year, after the next Father's Day, she bound them together in books and gave them to each one of the people in our family. And halfway through the year, my daughter said, I think this was more of a gift for me than it was you, which kind of clutched
That's
me.
creative too.
And then it's cool. And because it was her, Sunday night, I knew I was getting a new one on Monday, so I'd crank it out. One of my boys said, Dad, I cried when I read that. And my mom had always told me I should write a book. And between that suggestion and my experience with my daughter in Storyworth, I decided to write my family story, because I'm an only child, my parents are gone. The family stories leave quickly, so I wrote this godforsaken long memoir that was like a Seinfeld episode, right? It was like about nothing. It was just like, there I am, there I am, there I am. But through the process of that, Milt, I started seeing points in time where I had, not by plan, kind of accidentally, kind of backed into it, recognized and seized opportunities that made all the difference in my life. Like, I'm sure in your life too, I didn't get on an escalator and go like that. I kind of jogged around.
Right.
And that's been the best part. And it's because I think I recognized and seized opportunities, which I call making your own luck. A lot of people are dismissive of luck. They're like, oh, that's happenstance. That guy was lucky he got a client on the plane. He was lucky he got that assignment at work. Usually it's an effort to get that.
There's true too, but we also believe that there's no effort in terms of divinity, not coincidences. These are things that sometimes ordain, and so happens that some people who work really hard make their own luck, right?
Right.
So that's the impetus of the book. Can you tell us a little bit about the book without giving it away, so that people will go ahead and purchase it, and then we'll set you down, and I'll even come get your autograph. How's
Absolutely.
that?
Well, I make 64 cents a copy, so if I keep at this, I might be able to quit my day job.
You might have some real luck about one of these days.
Yeah, I set out at the beginning these 10 precepts that hopefully people can have in mind, and a lot of my friends are buying them for their kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews, because I kind of wish I'd had a little bit of a roadmap early on about what to look out for. But then the book, I didn't want it to be like one of those formulaic books where it's like precept, talk about it, repeat the precept, So it's really kind of the arc of my career. I'd like to think there's some funny stories in there. It's a very vulnerable story. I talk about my dad's alcoholism, my experience with anxiety attacks when I was a kid, growing up in the back of this bar, being a knucklehead, kind of a troublemaker when I was younger. But I hope that people see how these precepts apply, and most importantly, apply them in your life. To me, it's a book of, I think IU fans will love it. There's behind the scenes stories about this and that. But ultimately, it's a story of empowerment about, this isn't a dress rehearsal, man. This is the real thing. And so don't let a lack of self-confidence or the feeling that you can't do it keep you from pursuing your dreams.
Well, they might consider you a lucky one, but they might also consider you the ordained one that had so much opportunity to help and work through others. We've all had mentors that we've had to look up to. We've all had opportunities to do other things with our lives, but you've chosen to do the right thing by making sure that other people can be engaged. Where do they get it? Who's your publisher? And how do they write to get it? There's a website. Where do they get it?
So IU Press published it. We're in our 5th printing. They're real excited about that. Probably the easiest way is to go to my website, fred-glass.com. You can buy it from Amazon, which is the easiest, but also through my website, you can support local bookstores and buy it from a bookstore in Indy or Bloomington, which has been real important to me to work through local bookstores.
Even a commercial enterprise shows a chance to give to others. I'm the lucky one with the lucky one today on Playing for Keeps, Fred Glass. Thank you so much for being here. And I know everybody out there are going to watch this show. They're going to also tell their friends to watch next week's show. Friday night, 9 p.m., Playing for Keeps. WHMB Channel 40. We'll see you next week.